I wanted to try to make a custom maple and epoxy skateboard, but the problem was I've never built a skateboard and I didn't really have all of the best tools to build skateboards. So first thing I did was make a high-end template out of a piece of cardboard like you see here, just so I could get a rough idea of the size and layout for each skateboard. And I guess these are going to be the longboards. I had some people commenting telling me that I had that completely wrong. So I'm building a couple wood and epoxy longboards. After that, I went over to my bandsaw to rip them down to a little bit more manageable thickness. I don't want these to break, but I also don't want them to weigh 60 pounds. So at this point, I felt like I was off to a pretty good start, but still had a long ways to go. I asked my nephews, what color do you want? We can do any color in the whole world. And one of them said, I want bright purple. And the other said, I want black. And they both want pink epoxy, which is cool with me. So I mixed up some custom purple dye that actually went really, really well on this light maple. It was just a transient dye mixed with alcohol. From there, I decided to seal it with an epoxy coat before doing the deep pour because that dye can bleed out into the epoxy. So I didn't want it kind of leaching out during the pour. So right now they're sealed with epoxy, ready for the pour. And here is the pigment that I got. I don't remember the name for it, but I don't recommend it anyway. It looked amazingly cool and super pink here. After it cures, it doesn't look quite the same, so I don't want to recommend this one. But for now, it looks pretty cool. When you're using powdered pigments like this, one of the most common problems or common mistakes that people make is they just pour it in and then they let it sit, where you really need to keep stirring it during the curing process if you're doing one of these slow deep pour epoxies like I am. So I'm sloshing it around a bit here, but I'm going to come back after about 12 hours and it's really starting to thicken up, and then I'm going to give the final swirl and then it should stay in place. And you can see there, it kind of turned a little bit of a salmon color, which I was disappointed in, but hopefully when I'm finished, it'll actually look a little bit better. The first step before I go cutting these to shape was to get them planed on an industrial planer. And you can see there, all of the color got removed. And I actually knew that was going to happen. The reason I did the dye process as I did is so that the river portion, or where the epoxy is, will be dyed to match. Because now I'll be able to come back once I get it cut and sanded, and then I will re-dye it the same color. So right now, we're still on track, although it does look a little funny. And I got a template made from someone on Etsy. It was pretty simple. I got two different designs. I got kind of a fishtail, then just a regular pintail. Not a skateboarder or longboarder, so I might have those names wrong, but made this process really nice using my router table and this template. After I got the boards cut to shape, got the edges rounded, and got them sanded, I was ready to go back to the dyeing process. This part, however, was going to be a little bit trickier because that dye will stain the epoxy slightly. So I need to be a little bit careful and put it mostly on the wood. And I knew I'd get a little bit on the edges, and I'm hoping that